Okay, so when I started doing these, one of the things I thought I would do is use these, videos as a chance to just sort of practice or work material. So this is an example of something that I think there's an idea there. I'm not sure at the moment. It's very finely honed. So it's if you excuse me, also, I'm just going to. I've got some notes. I haven't learnt it by heart. So on the 6th of July, Boris Johnson was in Yorkshire in Goole, and he made a statement. I was going to read the statement. And we need to bear in mind this was not scripted. It was, I guess, what his minders dread most. He was sort of like, off the cuff. And this is what he said. He said, "We've discovered too many care homes didn't really follow the procedures in the way that they could have. But we're learning lessons the whole time. The most important thing is to fund them properly. But we will also be looking at ways to make sure the care sector long term is properly organised and supported." So not surprisingly, this produced a massive reaction, particularly from people working in the care community, who felt this was a bit blunt and also, very unfair. So later that day, then, we had this message from Downing Street. What the Prime Minister was pointing out was that nobody knew what the correct procedures to put in place were at the time, because the extent of asymptomatic transmission was not known. We are learning about this virus all the time. And of course, depending on your political perspective, it depends how you read that. So I suppose people on the left would see this as a massive retreat. Downing Street sort of covering up for another, Boris cock-up. People on the right might just see it, oh, that's okay, that's just a sort of clarification. That's helpful. But I did kind of like that idea of, somebody saying something and then, the office following up with some sort of explanation or clarification. And what that made me think of was, what would have happened, after, things that I might have said. So things could say, well, I'm learning about quantum physics all the time. I'm learning about how to prevent global warming all the time. I'm learning about how to prevent social inequality all the time. So some of the big questions of our time to be asked. But I also thought, well, okay, what would have happened then after some of the great speeches in history? And again, excuse me, I'm going to read these because I haven't quite got this in my head yet. But so after the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln's most famous message. So the White House, after that, the White House might have said something like, what Mr. Lincoln was pointing out was that at the time, nobody knew the extent to which all men were actually created equal. Also at the time, we are still learning about the possibility for government of the people, by the people, for the people. So I don't know if that works as a clarification for Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Then I thought about Martin Luther King's speech. After his I Had a Dream, maybe his office. I don't know if in those days he had much PR. But they might have said something like this. What Mr. King was pointing out was that nobody knew what the correct procedures for organising for the sons of slaves to be able to sit with the sons of former slave owners, because nobody knew if such a thing was really a moral thing. We are learning about what we might aim for greater equality in society all the time. Maybe, I don't know if Martin Luther King would have had a statue in Saatchi. And then the third one I was thinking about was Churchill's, the fight them on the beaches speech in the Commons. So I just thought he finishes that, it comes out, and then a Downing Street again, I suppose it would be, wouldn't it? Issues a statement. And it goes like this, or it might go like this. What the Prime Minister was pointing out was that nobody knew what the correct procedures to put in place when faced by the might of the Nazi army sweeping across Europe, because the extent of their military power and the extent of their ambition for power was not known at the time. Do you know, we are learning about the Nazi hordes all the time.